to press go live. Cool. Hello, I'm here with Jack. Hello, Jack. So hello. Jack, who for a long time was known to me as Elder Page, was one of the Persian language missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Los Angeles. We could actually speak in Farsi for a while. It's up to you if you want to display your Farsi skills. Although there's a mismatch because you speak Farsi adabi and I don't.
Yeah, خیلی ادبی.
بعضی از کلمه‌ای که استفاده می‌کنی مخصوصا معمولاً تو میگی شما میخواهید اینجوری حرف میزنی و راستی اینجوری حرف نمیزنیم ما معمولا.
آره من از دیگران یاد نگرفتم، از کتاب ها یاد گرفتم. پس خیلی شما و اید و
آره ادبیه. نمیدونم چقدر میخوای فارسی. یه چیز میخواستم بهت نشون بدم، خیلی خنده دار بود. بذار پیداش کنم. یه کسی اومده بود روی یه دونه از لایف استریمام. یه کسی اومده بود فکر میکرد که چیز هست، فکر میکرد که خودش عیسی مسیح هست.
واقعا
فارسی
بلد بود.
وایسا ببین میبینی این از رو کانال من 12/6/22 یعنی دسامبر تقریبا 13 ماه پیش. خب اوکی. حالا گوش کن.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Did you want to
Would
say
you believe me if I told you that I am the man of the earth come to bring peace to the world, whom gave Noah the plum, whom speaks and interprets every language known to mankind, whom has the dove, and there's some words that I won't say that are not to be written on paper or told outside the house.
اگر به فارسی بتونی این حرفا رو بزنی شاید.
You said I don't know to tell.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. I said اگر به فارسی بتونی این حرفا رو بزنی شاید
شاید.
شاید ولی موقعی که اصلا حتی نفهمیدی چی گفتم بعدا داری به من میگی که I understand all languages. Oh, come on. You know?
گاز خنده داره. Silly goose.
قاز خنده داره. Okay, that's hilarious. I'm gonna have to use that. قاز خنده داره. Did you guys come up with like so to explain to my audience, so LDS missionaries always have to be in pairs the entire 2 years.
Yep.
You're never allowed to be alone. And so did you and your partners like come up with like things in Farsi that you would say that like these like were there jokes like "Qaza Khandadar"?
Oh my gosh, that was like our entire like we had like our own subset of Farsi that was just like okay, this is like Farsi elder Farsi because it's like barely real Farsi. It's like a mixture of English puns and Farsi, and it doesn't make any sense to anyone except for us. Like so like I could say something to another Farsi elder and he would get the joke, but if I said it to any other Farsi speaker, like
they wouldn't get the joke.
It was just yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like one of my favorite ones. Yes. Oh, sorry. My favorite one we would say to each other, like just in the most random times, like Chera surata boland.
Why the long face?
Yeah.
Surat deraz, not boland. That's why the tall face. Yeah. So I was invited by by the local elders to watch General Conference at the Stake Patriarch's house, and one of the speeches was talking about how LDS have their own language. And my favorite thing he gave was, if we're meeting at the steakhouse, you should eat dinner beforehand. You're not gonna get steak at the steakhouse.
I know. It's always like the biggest disappointment. Even as a member, like it's kind of like still in there, like, man, there will be steak, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's first of all, Jack is launching his own YouTube channel, and let me actually pull up your YouTube channel. Yes, we are showing up on your YouTube channel, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I am going to put the link in the chat here so everyone can see it. And see, you can highlight it like that.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah. And so one of the things I've told all the LDS missionaries is after you guys get off your mission, you have to come on my channel. And to date, Jack is the first one to actually do it. Despite one of my elders, Elder Peterson, so it was kind of funny. He was one of the first elders. In fact, he was the first. Him and his partner were the first elders, that I spoke to. Although I never met that partner because that partner ended up going home early, which is never a good sign. Before I met him, and Elder Peterson I went through a lot of elders. Elder Peterson, I even met his parents, and I complained to his mom that he was supposed to come on my channel, and
I
he said,
was there when that happened.
yeah, and he said he's going to come on my channel, and he still has not come on my channel. So if Elder Peterson sees this, yeah, his goose is cooked. But here, Jack actually decided to do this. So Jack, tell us about yourself. Tell us how you ended up with this crazy Jew talking at you about penal substitutionary atonement and what it felt like, and why you decided to actually come on my channel.
Yeah. So I am like, I'm 21. I'm fresh out of like high school and crap. I went straight out of high school to serve a mission for the LDS Church in Los Angeles, speaking Farsi, and that was the time of my life. That was so much fun. And yeah, like I saw like God lead my life for 2 years straight. It was so cool. And one of the coolest things that happened was being introduced to Jacob. Um, and so like God opens up a lot of paths, and Jacob was like, "Hey, you should like hop on a stream with me." And I've thought about doing YouTube for a long time now, 'cause I've grown up on YouTube, and so I thought, hey, like God's put this right here in my path. Why pass up that opportunity? And so
Okay.
I'm just happy to be here. This is like the perfect way to like kickstart my online presence.
I'll tell you, if Garth is still watching, the people in my channel will definitely recognize this. So Jack told me, yeah, my so I started asking him about, and so he said he had a girlfriend from before he went on his mission. I was like, so when are you going to marry her? And he's like, well, we're thinking after we graduate college. Garth is here. And what did I tell you, Jack?
That was a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jack is getting married in April, and I totally feel like I had some hand in making sure he gets married earlier. Garth is also engaged, kind of, sort of engaged. Not as they don't have a date yet, but
Okay.
Fraud says Mazel Tov. But I am definitely known on my channel for encouraging people to get married. And so I was absolutely delighted. Well, first of all, I was delighted to meet your father and your brothers. Did you have a sister?
I do, yeah.
Was she there?
She was, yeah. It was me, my two brothers, and my sister, and then my dad.
Okay. I couldn't remember if there was a sister there, but I remember meeting them, and I remember your dad saying, well, I heard you encouraged him to get married, which your dad was happy about, which I was happy about. And so it's happening. It's happening. I'm so excited. I'm not as excited as you are, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, we are both really excited. We've been doing so much planning recently, and like it was funny. I was with her, and like you called me and we talked for a little bit, and it was that same night we like sat down and talked, and like we were like, you know what? It kind of is like kind of dumb to wait like until after we're out of college if we both like know it's right and are broke. Like
Yeah, honestly, if so, a lot of people, and I keep on pointing this out to people, a lot of people think, oh, I should wait until I'm financially stable to get married. It's like, I understand waiting until you are financially stable to have kids.
Yeah.
Although that already, like, various religious beliefs, I am, that's between you and your bishop, right? But not getting married until after college and all that stuff, that only makes sense if you're not sure that you're going to
Mhm.
do it. If it's really about finances, you are so much financially better off getting married earlier, especially when you're in college, because you qualify for all kinds of financial aid and stuff when you're married that you simply don't when you're not married.
Yeah.
It's so much cheaper to go through college when you're married than when you're not married. That it's like, do it. Yeah, there you go. So he's getting married, guys. That's
Yeah.
all I wanted to talk about. We can end the stream now. No.
Yeah. Hey guys.
So Jack, what do you want to talk about? I don't want to dominate the conversation.
Yeah. So I like I read these verses like I was having that was my favorite part about like being a missionary was I was still learning a lot of like the doctrine while I was there. And one of the things that just fascinated me was like just all of the different like elements of the creation that's in the like Old Testament. And
Okay.
like I just love like how those stories relate. Like I like I even took like verses like just throughout like what we believe in is like the oh gosh dang it there's a word for it in our 4 books of scripture, right? Standard works. And so like I just looked through all these different things with the creation through the standard works, and my favorite one, which is like one that I know has like a lot of like I think a lot more meaning in like Judaism than it does in Christianity, was Psalm 74. And I I loved those verses so much. And I've been trying to like I love writing like story ideas down, because like one of my like goals one day is to write and publish a book. That's just something I really want to do. And so I just love writing down story ideas. And my favorite one that I've written was like stemmed off of like this verse and like this idea.
Which verse? I mean, I have it up. Psalm 74.
Psalm 74 verses um 13 and 14.
13 and 14.
Yeah.
אתה פוררת בעוזך ים, שיברת ראשי תנינים על המים. אתה ריצצת ראשי לוויתן, תיתנו מאכל לעם לציים. Interesting. Yeah, thou didst divide the sea by thy strength. Thou didst break the heads of the sea monsters in the waters. Thou didst crush the heads of Leviathan. Thou didst give him for food to the desert people. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And so like from this, I just, because I love like the very first thing that like, or one of the first things that God did when he was creating the world was he divided the waters. And that's something I've never really understood, like the firmament from like the waters on the earth. And that like I never really understood that. But like I kind of like see it in the light of like this fight between like good and evil, chaos and order. And like Leviathan is like the example of chaos. And that's what everything really is. Everything is just like chaotic matter. Everything like returns like everything like eventually becomes chaotic, but through God it goes back to order. And so that was like something that I just thought was like really interesting. And
Yeah.
so like I've kind of like I have like this idea for like a story where like the world, it's definitely like a lot more like fantasized, but it's like a world that a god like took chaotic matter, took this evil like chaos and changed it into something that was good. And I thought that was so cool. It was like an idea of like everything reverting to chaos, but God keeping it all in order, and like that kind of idea. But I was wondering, like, is there more to this, and like in Judaism and in that, and because I don't know much about like the creation story other than what's in Genesis and like what we believe.
Yeah. So this is the funny part about you being. Well, someone pointed out, yes, you're a returned missionary, and maybe I should have named the stream differently. So this is one of the interesting things. Having LDS missionaries visit me was different from how I interact with people on my streams, partially because you're a captive audience, and I can't, and I wouldn't body slam you the way I sometimes do people on my streams. So be careful.
All right.
Um, the other way that it was very different is you guys had very strict limitations on the books you're allowed to read and your access to the internet and things like that.
Mhm.
So my online presence is part of something larger that some people call the Peterson sphere. Some people call this little corner. And there's a lot of, I mean, you can see like this person, I have no idea who this person is. But former LDS member was going to go to BYU, Idaho. Right. This other person who I'm not sure I know who it is was LDS, knows LDS Missionary. So we have a lot of people. I don't know if Ethan might be watching. I'm guessing afterwards Ethan is definitely going to be see the title and take a look. And he's former LDS. So
Mhm.
we have a conversation here, which includes like Catholic priests, Eastern Orthodox priests, Jewish Orthodox rabbis, lots of mostly Protestants, all kinds of people, a few Muslims, right? And you can go down a rabbit hole about as much as you want to, and there will be people who will go down that rabbit hole with you, right? So
Yeah.
when you talk about Leviathan, like I'm thinking of channels including, so there's one guy, Jess, who loves the book of Job like you wouldn't believe. Like this guy, our joke is somebody mentions the book of Job and Jess starts crying. And he does. Like he loves that book with a passion that's just immense, right?
Yeah.
And in there, there's one line, Leviathan ze asata l'sachek bo, if I'm remembering it correctly. You created the Leviathan to play with
Mm.
in Job, right?
Yeah.
And based on that, there's been a lot of discussion of Leviathan in this.
Okay.
A. Murdo says he spoke to me before. Honestly, like, I love the fact I talk to so many people, I can't remember them all anymore. At the same time, I hate the fact I talk to so many people, I can't remember them anymore. Like who exactly I spoke to and who I didn't. It it has its drawbacks and it has its good things. But so this idea of the Leviathan. So in the Bible, you have Leviathan and you have Behemoth, right?
Mhm.
And Leviathan and Behemoth were both that's from Psalm 104 that I'm thinking of. Sorry. And apparently Jonathan Pajot just did a video. Do you know who Jonathan Pajot is?
I don't think so.
So, obviously you've heard of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
So Jordan Peterson, there are 3 people who have much smaller YouTube channels that Jordan Peterson has interacted with that are kind of like the next level down leaders of the Jordan Peterson sphere or the slow corner or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
One of them is Paul Vanderklay, who is a Protestant Calvinist pastor, and like he's an actual Protestant. Like he actually believes in like typical Protestant beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And he's a real pastor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's one of the big ones. The person who's probably closest to Jordan Peterson is Jonathan Pajot. In fact, he's having a symbolic world conference either this weekend or next weekend. I don't remember which one it is. I'm not going, but Jordan Peterson is actually going to the conference.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And there's only 500 people at the conference, and one of them is going to be Jordan Peterson, which is
wow.
like, yeah. Definitely, like, I kind of sort of wanted to go. Father Stephen DeYoung, who's I like to consider a friend of mine, is also going to be there, and he's a Eastern Orthodox. So Jonathan Peterson, Jonathan Pajot is an Eastern Orthodox icon carver, right? So he makes icons for the Eastern Orthodox Church, and he talks about symbolism a lot. And so he's having this conference, and he's very involved with Jordan Peterson. I mean, if you're paying attention, Jonathan Pajot, and so that's how we got into the whole Pajot thing. But to talk about Leviathan, so Leviathan and Behemoth, they're words in Hebrew. I mean, Behemoth much more so than Leviathan, but Behemoth is actually a Hebrew word which means beasts, right? Or a beast, a large beast. Most LDS don't know what icons are. Do you know what icons are?
I don't.
So icons are images of oftentimes Jesus, but not just Jesus, like any saint. But Eastern Orthodox would hate me saying that they worship them, but they venerate them. So, like, imagine the pictures of President Nelson that people have all over their houses, but instead of just having President Nelson's picture in a prominent place, they also burn incense, kiss it, and pray in front of it, right? So
gotcha. Okay.
Are a big thing in Eastern Orthodoxy, and he draws, or they say writes, icons. I mean, I could pull some up, but
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Fraud says windows into heaven. That's how you can tell Fraud is thinking about becoming Eastern Orthodox. I don't think Fraud has been baptized yet, but I think he's thinking about it.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, back to Leviathan and Behemoth. I asked an LDS member once where I could find a Bible study. 2 weeks later, I was harassed by 10 of them that I should join then argued theology with me that they are wrong on. It was funny. Okay. They are.
I'm glad they were funny. Or, yeah, I'm glad they friendly harassed you.
Wow, fraud.
Oh,
You've been
cool.
Eastern Orthodox for 13 years? I did not realize that. Really, fraud? I thought you were I thought you were Orthodox curious. Okay. He used to be a JW. Um,
Oh,
we have a
interesting.
lot of former JWs here.
Hmm.
Okay. Behemoth, Leviathan. So both of those were gods that were worshipped by other cultures at the time um, that the Hebrew Bible was being written. Okay, and so part of that is so there's a lot of parts of the Hebrew Scripture which are obviously making, if not making fun of, although some of them are like just genuinely funny, making fun of um, the um, the beliefs of the surrounding pagan nations.
Hmm.
Um, they incorporate it into this narrative of my God made your gods, right?
Yeah.
The the God of the Jewish Bible is beyond and above all of
Mhm.
the pagan gods that were around, right? So
Yeah.
there's that aspect of Leviathan and Behemoth. But in Jewish understanding, right? Um, in Jewish understanding, so we have. I never did Kiddush for you, did I?
I don't think so.
So for Elder Peterson and one of the other elders, I actually invited them on a Friday evening um, and made a little kiddush meal so that they would see where your, well, you guys don't call it communion, you call it sacrament meeting,
Yeah.
right? Where the original of that comes from. I once made a joke. Did you know Keith? I won't say his last name because I don't want to dox him, but Keith, the guy that I had met, he was just a regular member. He's Jewish. He's been
Mhm.
baptized into
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah,
you
I
know.
know Kate. Yeah.
Okay, so so one time I saw him at sacrament meeting and he was doing the thing and I joked to him, I didn't expect you for you to make kiddush because kiddush is the ceremony that ended up being the sacrament. Okay,
Okay. Interesting.
and but for us it's an actual meal, right? So
Mhm.
there's wine, not water. Well, although there's water as well, but there's wine, there's bread, but there's an actual meal, and
Mhm.
it's a very involved ritual. Like it, in Judaism, in a very real sense, it is the center of what happens at home, right? So
Mhm.
we used to have the temple, we have the synagogue, and we have the home, which are three of the places that you know holy ritual takes place, right?
Yeah.
So in the temple, you had the sacrifice of actual animals being brought, and part of the sacrifice was that you would actually eat the the sacrifice you brought, right?
Okay.
So it's kind of a sacrifice is a reconciliation between you and God, right?
Mhm.
You're having a meal, and Christians when they call it about communion in a very are recapturing that at least somewhat, right? But so there's this idea of okay, you have the sacrifice, and then you have a meal with God, okay?
Mhm.
And that's what Kiddush and the meal with it includes. And there's the meal has several courses. So it's traditional to have a fish course and then to have a meat course. And there's this idea in Judaism symbolically that there's a place, now I'm forgetting exactly where in the Bible, but it talks about when the Messiah comes, there's going to be that God is going to reconstitute the tabernacle of David, which has fallen, right? And there's going to be a festive meal, right?
Okay.
So there's this idea in Judaism that actually what's going to happen is God is going to slaughter the Leviathan and the Behemoth, and from their skins, he's going to make this tabernacle of David, in which we are going to sit and we're going to have a kiddush meal, right? And the fish course is going to be the Leviathan, and the meat course is going to be the Behemoth, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's so there's, and symbolically, this is an idea of it's funny, I was just talking about this on the previous stream. There's this idea of, okay, God created the world, and Christian, I mean, LDS actually has more of this, what secular historians would say comes from the Masonic teachings, right? This idea of the veil, right? We were with God, and then God brought us into this world in order to freely choose to be with God again. And then after this world, we are going to be reunited with God. And that travel, right, is a necessary education, which is going to make us better people, right?
Yeah.
Even better than we were before we came through this world, right? And this is, I mean, you haven't done the temple ceremony for getting married yet, but well, when you will,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've looked it up already, but a lot of the symbolism definitely made its way into Freemasonry, and some would say by extension through that into the temple ceremonies. But there's this idea of in Judaism of a descent for the purpose of ascent, right? So we came from being spiritually united with God into this material world, right?
Yeah.
So that afterwards we would have a reunification with God, which is more which is even better than if we had never been separated through the veil from God, right?
Yeah, exactly. When we have that contrast, that's like when we can learn.
Right.
We can't learn if all we know is a straight line. We have to have context. We have to understand.
Right. And so there's that verse, it says, Ra'iti, I saw that greater was wisdom than foolishness, as the greatness of light from darkness, right? And one of the teachings that's the Jewish way of explaining this is, if when you are in the light, you don't understand the greatness of light until the light is taken away. Then when you're back in the light, you realize how great light is, right? And that the greatness of wisdom over folly is like the greatness of light over darkness. that is the reason and the way for the path, right?
Yeah.
So the idea in Jewish understanding is not that we are going to leave this world for a different world, like the telestial or celestial or
Mhm. Yeah.
whatever other spiritual kingdom, but rather that it's going to be this world which is going to in time be the kingdom of earth, the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. It
Yeah.
is going to manifest here, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so when God, what you call it, when God slaughters the Leviathan and the behemoth, right?
Yeah.
And, and turns their skin and their flesh into things we can feast on, right?
Hmm.
That is the perfection of um that is the perfection of um the world as it was meant to be, right? That
Yeah.
when the Leviathan and Behemoth be find their proper place in the world, and that's
Mhm.
how materiality is going to be reordered spiritually.
Yeah.
Lots of comments, but
Yeah.
you,
I love
yeah,
what Omerto said. We believe that as well. We believe that the earth is like this is where the celestial kingdom is going to be. That the earth will be renewed and receive its paradisiacal glory.
okay. I
Yeah.
was, I, I, I thought, okay, so, but what do you believe right now is happening? So, where is Joseph Smith right now?
That is a good question. I I personally I think that like there's the distinction between like our life here on earth and then the spirit world. And the spirit world is here on this earth. Um like I believe it's like just it's another plane of existence. It's here on this same earth. But like I don't know, that's how God can like minister to us through those who have deceased. That's how we can like I don't know. Like that's how I understand it is that the spirit world is here on earth and this earth is going to progress and progress as it says in the scriptures until the return of the Messiah and the cleansing of the world, and then after that this is going to be the celestial kingdom is going to be here, the kingdom of God here on earth.
Okay, so Joseph Smith, I mean, he's buried somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so is he going to? I'm assuming you believe there will be a physical resurrection.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
right, yeah.
he's going to be physically resurrected,
Yeah.
and so his soul is right now in a spiritual plane of the celestial kingdom, and
Mhm.
it's that's going to become manifest when um, Jesus returns, I guess.
Yeah, and not necessarily like the spiritual like I might be wrong on this, so I can't like speak, but I personally I believe that he's not
No,
in a different
I've decided
yeah.
you are now the official
Oh
spokesperson for the Church of
crap.
Jesus Christ of Latter Day
Oh
Saints.
man.
Yeah,
Oh, the
and
stakes are high.
if you make a mistake, I am going to call President Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
be
yeah.
very careful what you say. But no, go ahead. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's all good. We're all playing here, and there's only 10 people watching.
Yeah. So I think that like the spirit world here on earth isn't
Mm,
like exclusive for different people. Um
okay.
and there is like some other things that like like for example, we believe that like prophets of old, like there are some prophets like Abraham who have received their exaltation. They're living like gods. And so we believe that like there is that, and I'm not really sure about that, but I believe that the spirit world that is here on earth is like everyone who has lived and died since like the days of Adam.
Okay,
And
but what do you do with that, with the idea that God was as we are now, um, and we will be as God is? Like,
yeah,
what do you do? Like, isn't Joseph Smith like the god of some other world now with Emma, or isn't he going to be
no,
this world? Like,
no, that's something that people like hold on to, but it's like that's so far and like in the plan that it's like it doesn't really concern us right now. Like right now, like the like Christ hasn't come again. And
okay,
so like the like we believe that the first resurrection is like what is happening now. That when Christ was resurrected, that he started the first resurrection. And like we don't know how many like there's going to be, but like before anyone really like receives this like godhood in the celestial kingdom, that's like the rest of the plan of here on earth is like that needs to happen first,
okay,
right? And so right now we're living life here on earth, and like God's plan is progressing, but we're not there yet. Like that's and that yeah, I Amardos, he's he's got my back. That yeah, like with the speculative theology, like that's way out. It's like not really like it's doctrine
mm,
that like a prophet said, but do we really understand it perfectly? No. Like do we do we know like that's like do we know every little detail about that? Like I don't know. I don't know every detail. But anyways.
you don't know every detail. I'm so shocked. I thought you would know all of this stuff clearly already. It would be you're not ready to be on the what is it called, Council of 12 yet? The 12 apostles? Yeah,
Yeah, not yet.
not
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
I submitted my application, but I don't think they're gonna take me yet. But
I mean, I could see you one day making it to like the 70s, right? Becoming a general authority. You could do that, right?
yeah.
That could happen. Yeah. Step
Yeah.
one, LDS. Step two, step three, prophet. There you go.
But yeah, like so right now, like how do we get started talking about this? Oh, with like New Jerusalem, right?
Yes, and Leviathan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so part of the idea of this of Leviathan and
Mhm.
Behemoth is, I mean, you're absolutely right. It is creation,
Yeah.
chaos, order, right? But
Mhm.
the idea in, at least in Judaism, is that Leviathan represents the materiality of the world
Mhm.
that will be put into service in that future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like with and then like with that taking place on God's kingdom like here on the earth, like we believe that that's what's eventually going to happen like after the millennium. And so like we believe that like right now in this life, like we live as like human beings with physical bodies that our spirit bodies are combined with, but at death our spirit and our body separates. And so like our physical body stays here on this earth and our spirit goes to the spirit world, which
Okay.
like I personally believe is also here on this earth. um and when Christ comes, that's what's going to start like that's what's really going to trigger like the first resurrection and the millennium. Like
Okay.
that's when like God's kingdom on the earth is really going to like be built and be like worked on. It's not just going to happen like in an instant. It's going to be 1,000 years of work and of teaching and and one thing that I just recently learned that I think is really interesting is like it's not even like doctrine that like Mormons are going to be the only ones on the earth during that millennium. Like it's going to be like the world is now, but like it's going to be a time where there's no sin. It's going to be a time where like there is like there is no death. There is like peace on earth.
Mm.
And like it's at that time that the kingdom of God is really going to be established.
Did you meet Trey? Did you meet my friend Trey?
I don't remember. Did he come to dinner with us?
Mm, I
He's
don't.
not your surfer, is he?
He is a surfer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I did meet.
Hold on. Were you there when we went to
General
the?
at the Patriarchs?
Yeah. You were there.
I was there. Yeah, that was my last like
Oh.
few
Okay.
weeks.
Yeah. So Trey came when we did that. Okay. I thought it was somebody else I went with. I've started confusing all these, but yeah, that's Trey, and I have no idea why Trey's saying he's not talking to me, but apparently he's not. And yeah, he's the one who used to be a JW. And,
Yeah.
That's what I kept on telling him. Like so I don't know as much about the Seventh-day Adventists,
Mhm.
but the Seventh-day Adventists, the JWs, and the LDS they have so much in common.
Yeah.
I make the joke, it's like it's different flavors of soda. Yeah, obviously like 7-Up and Coke taste completely different from Orange Crush, but
Yeah.
all three of them are soda, and I think you really do see that. Trey calls them the restorationists, right? These Christianities that came out of the Second Great Awakening.
Mhm.
They have a lot of things that are very, very yeah. I actually have a lot of family who are Baha'i. I don't know. You must have met a lot of Baha'i people.
Oh yeah. They were so fun to talk to.
Yeah. Well, they're yeah. They have very and different members of the Baha'is have very different beliefs from each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trey is asking. He said, "Is Satan released at the 1,000 years?" I can show that.
There you go.
And yeah, that we believe that same thing, and I'm assuming that's what JWs believe, because like we believe that there's at the end of that millennium there's going to be like Satan and his followers are going to be free. There's going to be one last fight, and then after that, that is when like that feast will happen. The kingdom of God with Leviathan being like destroyed.
If any of the people wanna join, we can actually have other people join the discussion as well. So, yeah, you watch out for the porn bombers. I'm joking. Yeah. So what you can do is actually the pin that comment, but you have to go to YouTube to do it. You can't do it through StreamYard.
Okay.
But and sometimes people put it in the description, but that doesn't work so as well. And I usually just put it in the chat whenever I'm thinking, hey, we could have more people join. You want to take that?
Yeah. So we believe so. Yeah. We also believe like in this same way we believe that Jesus Christ is our brother. Like we believe that all of God's children, we are all like spirit brothers and sisters, right? And so like yeah. that is something we believe.
Um, so there you go. Yeah, Jack can answer all of your questions about LDS theology, and then we'll send a video of this to his bishop and see if he gets excommunicated or not.
Yeah.
But we'll wait. We'll wait until after the wedding to get you excommunicated because we want to let you have your temple wedding. That's important. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Uh, so your fiance, did she go on her mission?
She didn't. She has been in nursing school the past 2 years.
So you guys are gonna have to do a senior mission when you're older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be one of the first senior missionaries to set foot in Iran.
Well, if things change in Iran a lot, yeah, I guess.
I mean, hey, that's like 40, 50 years. So a lot could happen in 40 years.
Yeah. Oh, so when you do your senior mission, like if I guess if you've kept up your Farsi, they would send you to another like Farsi speaking place or
So
not
I'm not really,
necessarily?
I'm not sure. Like senior missionary like calls and assignments are really like interesting because
Okay.
I've never been a senior missionary, but I've heard that
Really?
you can. Yeah, you'd think like if you just like take like one look at me, like whoa, he's probably a senior missionary, right?
There
But
you
yeah, no, I wasn't.
go.
But I think that they do have like some choice over it. And I know like there's sometimes where it's like they have like a few options and they can choose those and then like sometimes they'll just be given an assignment. And so it's like for example the Armstrongs. You remember the Armstrongs,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. They actually gave me their number. They live in Utah, and
Mhm.
well, obviously, but in
St. George.
St. George,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I know some people there, and I considered even visiting. And
Yeah.
yeah, the Armstrongs, very nice people. But
So
yes, you were saying about the Armstrongs.
yeah. So they had a friend reach out to them, and he was like a mission president in New Zealand, and he like brought them out for like a helicopter trip, and was like, "Hey, do you guys want to like serve your senior missions like missions here? Like, if you like, we can get your call to be in New Zealand." And they were like, "Yeah." And so they put in their papers, and they got called to do family history work in Los Angeles.
Mm,
So I think they could have had like the option to go to New Zealand, but because it was like a call, they
mm.
felt like they needed to go to Los Angeles. Like they felt like that was where God wanted them to go. And so they went there instead of New Zealand, which is like crazy because they like the Family History Center in Los Angeles, which I don't know if any of your viewers are in Los Angeles, but if you guys are,
I
you should.
mean, Trey is, but most people are not. Although
Yeah.
I've been kind of making a more Los Angeles based thing here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, um so the Family History Center is like in the basement of the Temple Visitor Center.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it's not the prettiest place. They spent a lot of their time like working in a basement doing family history research, but anyways, that's how I think they work, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. I was just making sure you're an actual person.
Sure.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Hey Adam.
Hello, Jack.
How's it going?
Yeah, I've been on before with you, Jacob. It was long, like a year or two ago, just
Okay.
a little bit. You had somebody else that was former Latter-day Saint, but Orthodox Christian. Now
Mhm.
converted to Orthodox Christianity. I can't remember who it was. It was a while back.
Yeah, Ethan. It might have been Ethan.
Yeah.
Ethan's been on the channel a few times, and he's I mean, he still hasn't been baptized into the Eastern Orthodox Church. He's
Oh, okay,
a
yeah.
catechumen. Um, but one of the things, I mean, when they just had a baby, and um, he asked for his uncle to bless his baby, in the
Hmm.
traditional more LDS way, which I I think that's good. Even like both he and his wife come from LDS backgrounds, and what I sometimes see is ex Mormons who are very, you know, that they're just so negative
Mhm.
on the LDS in ways that I think is destructive to their own lives. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm. I agree.
So Adam, I'm guessing if I don't remember, I'm sorry, but you were LDS and now you're not.
No, I am LDS. I'm kind of, I'd be a little more non-standard LDS, if you would say it, compared to
Okay.
Jack, is kind of giving you kind of the standard things. I would see things more metaphorical or come up with alternative ways of looking at a lot of things. Um, and yeah, certainly if you're going to get in a little corner, you got to be. Um, they're going to test you a lot more on certain topics. So uh, I'm a lot more familiar with kind of other Christian stuff. I've been to Orthodox Church before, so I know about icons and Pajot and all them. I followed for years, and Peterson, of course, like a lot of people. So Vanderclay and so forth. Um, so I haven't, and it's funny in the Mormon community we have ex-Mormons. It's kind of a funny term. A lot of people just in other communities will just say they were born and raised in a certain tradition. Maybe
Mhm.
they're no longer going to church, but in LDS culture we have this ex-Mormon thing, and tends to be very negative towards the church. But
Mhm.
a lot of pretty much every walk of life, it's often the people that were once your friends that become your greatest enemies. So yeah,
Mhm.
that could be true if you're operating a company and it's a former employee that tries to get you back, or you know family member or whatever it is. So um,
I think, I mean, part of the difference is the LDS does have this difference of, so Solomon asked, can I still get married in the temple if I'm not an active member? And I think I mean, having a temple admit or not is something that distinguishes active Mormons from what you would probably just call cultural Mormons, who they don't necessarily, I mean, they're just not active in the church. They might not have a different theology or even care very much, but like they're raised Mormon. They certainly don't go every week to church. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I think when you talk about a cultural Catholic or something, I think that's very similar to somebody who just doesn't have a temple admit. It seems to me.
a little bit, but not quite the same. Really, to be a somebody that goes to the temple, it's kind of you subscribe to a certain set of beliefs, and you're a tithe payer. So it's a more of a there's a certain a few additional things. You can certainly be active a Latter Day Saint, meaning you go to church every Sunday and
Mhm.
participate, help, and serve others without going to the temple. But for the most part, I think you're on the money there. Um,
I have no idea who Sterling McMurrin is.
so yeah, I mean, uh, we have a lot more that's involved in being considered an active member rather than just being born into it, or
Mhm.
baptized as a child or something. So
Yeah. Yeah, so like to be married or like to go in like like for like temple marriage, like you do have to have a temple recommend. Um and oh, I was gonna say something else. I keep getting distracted by the chat.
Yeah. Well, I would add, Jacob, you had this recent thing where you went about that church, Catholic church in, I think it was New Jersey or New York, um, where the new priest came and set boundaries and all the
Oh, right.
people
Yeah.
left. Yeah. In other words, we have what the temple represents is just a set of boundaries, set of rules for those that
Mhm.
are, you know, um, have agreed to follow those things and be shown that they're active and believing in those principles, and then the temple becomes part of that. You can certainly be a believer that just shows up and kind of participates, but there's different levels for different beliefs and the boundaries and the rules and so forth.
Yeah, I looked up Sterling McMurrin, so
Yeah,
liberal
he's kind of
Mormon
a yeah.
theologian. Yeah, we'll have to do more research after that. Yeah, you were saying, Adam?
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Catholic church there, where they weren't really Catholics, maybe a name only, and they had their own agendas. But when they actually came back with the Catholic dogmas and beliefs and structure, suddenly they weren't really, they all left, right? So they weren't really believers. Um, so
Yeah, so I read an article. Was it Sunday? Yeah, I think it was Sunday. I read an article that I just found hilarious. Bunch of people who didn't really believe in the Catholic Church were pissed off that the Catholic Church they were going to was Catholic, and decided not to go anymore. And I just found that article hilarious, and so because their church used to be very liberal, and then a priest came and was like, "Hey, this is a Catholic church," and they were like, "No, it burns, it burns." Um, I have no idea who Dan McKellen is.
Yeah,
So
I
Dan
have no idea. I'm
McClellan,
looking at it.
I know who he is. Dan McClellan is a Bible scholar that is LDS, but I have no idea of his activity level, or nor would we. That's a private thing.
Yeah.
Really, having a temple admit is supposed to be private? I thought it was
Absolutely.
publicly. Really?
No, no.
No, it's not like. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know. If it was something that like people wore on their chests, like it would be like it would be like really irreverent. Like it's not something like even in the church, like you could go like down the aisle on a Sunday and like I have no idea who has or who doesn't have like temple recommends. Like that was something that
Really?
I was like really
Yeah.
surprised by. Like in Los Angeles, like I served like more close to like the members in Los Angeles in those wards because I only ever served in Tarzana and in Westwood as a Farsi speaking elder.
Right.
And so I got to know those members really well working with them every week. And I was surprised by like how many like members there didn't have like tempo recommends. And I wasn't expecting it, but like it I don't know. It was something that I didn't like it's not something that everyone knows. Um
Yeah, we do a
yeah.
lot more things privately. So if you
Mhm.
go to a Catholic church or a lot of Protestant churches, of course, they pass around the tray for donations. Donations in the Latter Day Saint church is done privately. You don't know what the other
Mhm.
person has done, and for very obvious reasons, we don't believe that should be done where other people can see what you're donating. It should be a private matter. And likewise, the temple recommends, as they're called, is a private thing between you and the bishop or stake president is called. So it's
Mhm.
a lot of those things are done openly in other churches, but were privately done in the Latter Day Saint Church.
Yeah, I think actually don't people tithe through the LDS website?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people do it online. Otherwise, it either like goes straight to like the bishop, or like in some parts we'll do like tithe offerings where like the deacons and like those of the priesthood will like go around to like the members and like on fast Sundays and have like little envelopes that they can put their tithes in.
Okay, I've
But
never seen that. Yeah,
yeah,
and fast Sunday is what I call open mic Sunday, which is
yep.
which is so one Sunday a month. Is it the last Sunday of the month?
First.
First Sunday of the month. What's supposed to happen is you're supposed to fast and give an equal amount to charity, and the church meeting is basically open mic night. Anybody can join and can go up and talk. Testimonial meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a fascinating experience. And oh, that's another thing. I still can't believe. So Christopher, that guy I told you, who ended up getting assigned to Los Angeles,
Yeah.
I still haven't met him. He's been here. He got here in December. I don't know. He didn't tell me, like, I figured he would have my contact information, but he hasn't contacted me at all. And I have no way of actually contacting him. He's in the next mission over. He's not in this mission. So yeah, I'm wondering how I would actually get in touch with him. But yeah. Hey Andre, how you doing?
Hey, so I've got a question. How did it come to the case that LDS Church got so like Jewish central around like Utah and Salt Lake City, but no other states? Like, why is there such like a massive sort of concentration in that one particular state, but you don't really see it in any other ones?
That's a really good question. So the church, like when it was first established, it didn't have like it was like first established in like New York, right? And then they moved like to Missouri and Ohio, and like they were like all around the East, and there was so much persecution that like once Joseph Smith got killed, the saints eventually like they left and they made the trek across America. And like one thing that's really interesting is like they were going to a place like Brigham Young said that he had seen a vision, or I think it was Joseph Smith, like there was a vision of the saints in like the mountains. And so they were like, we're heading west and that's all we know. We don't know where we're going. And at that time, like Utah wasn't even a part of the United States. And so they were fleeing America. And as they were leaving, like the Mormon battalion happened with the, I think it was the, what was it? There was a war right there in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the Mexican-American War or was it the
Mexican-American War? Yeah. I was like, it's very simple. I don't know how I'm forgetting it. Anyways, that happened. And so that happened like while the pioneers were making the trek over to like Utah to the west, because it wasn't even a part of the US. There wasn't a lot of like stuff over there. And then like by the end of that war, Utah and like the western frontier had like been purchased by America. And so like Utah was a part of America, and that was where the saints just ended up like in the mountains. And Brigham Young has a very like famous quote where he said, "This is the place," like in Salt Lake City, Utah.
So like the spread of like the way I sort of say it, because like, as I said, my experience with LDS members has sort of been quite weird. Unlike Christian missionaries, which sort of spread out and like get their roots in different places and then make churches and home churches, the LDS members sort of congregate quite closely together, and then they like roots on a tree. They sort of like spread out slowly and try and spread the word rather than spread the church in a sense. Would that be correct?
It's a little different than that, because when you encounter Protestantism, they have this thing called church planting. That's not something, I think that's what you're referring to. The
yes,
Christians will go out and plant a church. Well, Latter-day Saints more like Catholicism. So Catholicism, they plant their own churches, right? It's the Catholic Church that builds out the churches in each geographical area, and that's how Latter-day Saints do it. So it's the corporate church, similar to how Catholicism does it, that puts up churches in geographical areas. So we call those geographical areas stakes and missions, whereas a diocese or all the different Catholic ways of saying it, ours would be more similar to that, where Protestants kind of they have their own denomination. They may start their own church and then go plant a church somewhere. We don't do that. It's more centrally organized, and it's based on how many members are in that area. Then it justifies a church to be built. Then the central organization of the church will then go find a place to put a church, rather than individual sponsoring a church and creating it from the ground up.
And historically, I mean, there weren't temples all over the place, and so if you were a religious Mormon, you wanted to be close enough to a temple to go for the various rites, and which caused people to specifically live closer to Mormon temples. And like, the history of the LDS is just very different from a lot of
I that's what I got the feeling of, like that would be a reason why it's sort of keeping close to home base.
They definitely, I mean, if you were going to be like BYU and Salt Lake City kind of are the Rome of the LDS in a sense, if you're comparing.
I would also add that when there's a lot of people coming to the United States, Latter-day Saint missionaries went all over the world, and what happened is, instead of those people staying in their native countries, what happened is they tended to want to go to Utah or around that area. So a lot of the converts would go via ship or whatever and congregate in Utah. So there's an initial group that made it there, but the vast majority were actually immigrants from Scandinavia and Europe that later were converted. Missionaries were sent out, they were converted, but then they all congregated kind of more centrally. But then that practice stopped, and members were encouraged later, more in the 20th century, to stay in their native countries, opposed to grouping up in central area like Utah. Myself, I'm from Canada, so
cool.
There were what happened in the mid 19th century or 1860s, 1870s is Brigham Young designated large Mormon colonies to go out from Utah, and they basically went west, north, and south. And so, like, Las Vegas is a Latter-day Saint colony. Doesn't look like it now, but and they even went down to northern Mexico and up into Canada. So if you go straight up north from Utah, you'll get to Alberta, which is a huge Latter-day Saint group there. Basically straight north and south, and Idaho and neighboring Arizona and neighboring states are very heavily populated with Latter-day Saints as well.
Okay. Why is it that I encountered so many like Christians and Protestants that are like can come off as dogmatic, but all LDS members just come off as like very friendly and enthusiastic, but never like a little bit pushy, but not like pushy. Like, yeah, you have to join the LDS church, but like they just really want you to be part of the team. Like, as I said, that I posted that Bible study thing. I'm like, can anyone tell me where to find look to buy a study Bible? Not an LDS group, just a Bible study group. I got like 5 actual replies from like that were helpful, and then like 20 responses from LDS members saying, look at our website for our leadership. You might be interested in becoming a fellow or something like that. I'm like, if I'm looking for a study Bible, and it's clear like I haven't really read the Bible, how can I just jump straight to like joining the LDS Church, which has got further like theology and doctrine added on to it? Like
Mhm.
I would need to know the basics first. But like they sort of handed me down over a few weeks. Like I got messages from more and more, like at least 10, and then they came to. I asked on the LDS site, like, you can get a free study Bible from us. I'm like, okay, signed up. It never came, but I got a card in my front door saying, "Oh, hello, Elder, like John and Elder, like Susie came, but you weren't home. We if you want to call us and discuss anything, here's our number." They never knocked on the door. I'm like, so they visited my house. Like I got contacted by like half a dozen, but they never like actually led me to Christianity or like the Bible. They sort of tried to lead me to the church and like be a team member, but like not a dogmatic pushy way, just a really friendly, like enthusiastic way, which is really confused me. Like there's never been like a bad tempered Mormon.
There's no
Yeah.
such thing as bad-tempered Mormons. They don't.
I've never met one. I'm kidding.
No, I guess we could answer. That was a lot, but well, Joseph Smith was anti-dogmatic, so that starts from the very beginning. He
Okay.
was not into creeds and dogmas, and so we don't have central creeds or dogmas. We have a few things that we tend to believe, but the very few things are actually things that'll prevent you from, going to the temple, for example. You really only need to believe in God and Jesus and the restoration. And then a lot of Mormonism is orthopraxis. So it's what you do rather than what you believe. It's not
Right.
orthodoxy. It's not a set of, hey, I stand up and adhere to a certain 20 or 10,000 points or whatever it is. There are certain few things, but it's mostly what you do. And we
Okay.
tend to be, I think, more in line with Judaism that way. It's more orthopraxis. I mean, by your fruits shall you know them. And
Yeah.
we get in a lot of trouble from Protestants over that, who tend to be more, by grace you are saved. We believe in grace too, but it tends to be more, if I just stand up and say I believe in Jesus, I'm saved. That's not something you'll find in Latter-day Saint culture, because we believe that, yes, we can attest to certain things, but how are you acting them out? That's more of a testament of what you
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
And I
Is
guess
it-
that was Jordan Peterson, like, in a sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like as a missionary and Jacob as a victim of the missionaries, or as a
Victim.
post missionary, yeah, or as a return missionary. So a lot of times, like, the missionaries are the ones who like go out and they'll deliver like Bibles and Book of Mormons. Like we won't really like we can send them in the mail, but most of the time we have the missionaries do it.
Yeah, that's. I actually was
Ah.
trying to get one in the mail, but
Mhm.
I thought I was asking for one in the mail, and I got a phone call. Yeah.
So could they have been delivering the Bible when they visited?
Yes. So that's
Okay.
almost definitely
Okay.
what happened. There were a lot of people who requested like Bibles and stuff, and so I would go and like deliver them, and people wouldn't be home, and so we would like put a card in, and like
Right.
good missionaries
Yeah.
are supposed to do, like, whenever we get like a referral or somebody who's interested in anything, we have 7 days that we try to contact them in 7 different ways.
Okay.
Lazy missionaries won't do that. They'll knock on the door, leave a card, and like, oh, they didn't contact us. They're not interested, I guess. And so, like, I could definitely see like the missionaries in your area coming around at just a bad time and then never trying again. But like, if you reached out like again, like, missionaries try to respond within like 24 hours, and
Okay.
like,
Well, that definitely clarifies things, because like the whole time I'm like, they're so pushy and like they want me to join, but I asked for the free LDS Bible and they're like, yeah, we'll send it, and it never comes. And then instead they send like 2 mean missionaries to my door. At one point I'm like doing something else, leave a card,
Yeah.
and then they don't follow up. Like, the
Uh-huh.
stereotype of the rude Mormon, like that rude Mormon is just like always confronting, and like
Mhm.
but like knowing that like that's what they were doing, that does make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's not something I need now because I did buy a very good study Bible.
Oh, good.
But like it like I will never join the LDS Church, I would say, but I think it would be interesting to actually read like what is written by them and sort of get a better grasp, because I feel like if you know, like, say the South Park episode about Mormonism, that's is a very, very big parody and satire of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have that view of it. It's like, oh yeah, so Jesus, oh, so he was American and a white man, was it? Right, and he looked at, like, had these magic stones, but no one else could look, and like it's a very skeptical sort of take. I think people would naturally have, which isn't to discount it, but whereas just the Bible itself, like, you can sell it to people a bit easier. But I think Mormons definitely would have like a lot of a harder job with that, without people even investigating what they have said.
Well, honestly, I mean, I say similar things. Look, if the Hebrew Bible is not true, then obviously Christianity isn't true, right? So if the Hebrew Bible is false, then the Greek Bible is definitely false, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there is my famous joke of, why did God create Mormons? So Christians know how Jews feel, right?
Yeah.
So like, you're stapling the Christian, like the Book of Mormon, onto the back, and then then there's Doctrines and Covenants. Jack, we didn't actually make up for how long we are going to keep on going. If you want to continue streaming, you can. I have to make a phone call. I can leave you guys chatting and go make my phone call and come back. I don't know how long it's going to take. Or we can continue this for a little while. Was there anything specific you wanted to talk about that we haven't yet? Obviously, I expect you to do this on a regular basis. I'm not gonna let you leave easily. But was there anything you wanted to talk about, or Adam or Andre, if you jumped on, like, if there was anything in particular? But I do have to go make a phone call, so we can talk a few. Like, Jack, you let me know what you want to do.
Yeah, I was gonna hop off at around like an hour and a half.
Okay.
And so, yeah, this is like a perfect like stopping point before like we do like, and Andre, like, I do think like if you are like curious at all about like what the LDS Church believes, there's no better like source than the Book of Mormon. And like, we believe that the Book of Mormon is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like, it contains the full gospel of Jesus Christ, just like it's contained in the Bible. But we believe that like it has been like the Book of Mormon is a simpler view of it. That the gospel of Jesus Christ is put simpler. It's something that like children can understand. And so like if you are interested, like, missionaries like love talking with people about it, love giving out copies of the Book of Mormon. And and that's our invitation, is for people who are curious to read the Book of Mormon and to ask God what he thinks about it. Ask God about what they're feeling, about what they think, what their thoughts are. And like, that's something that like I saw a lot on my mission that I thought was really cool, was God answers prayers in so many different ways.
That's a good answer. I would also say I am curious to read it, because part of like the way I approached religion originally, I didn't read the Christian Old Testament. I read my way through the Torah, and I was originally going to read the full Tanakh, but I sort of lost momentum, and I'm like, okay, I don't think Judaism is for me. And there's sort of like one or two reasons specifically why as well, but I'm like, I really like admire Judaism and a lot of what it says, but there's some things I fundamentally disagree with. and then went to Christianity. But part of like delving into other religions and denominations is that I want to be able to understand people better, so I can like shed off my prejudices and like preconditioned beliefs or presuppositions that I may have that could affect me in treating them differently. So I feel like maybe I have some biases of treating LDS members as sort of like, as I said, like enthusiastic and friendly, but like they're believing in like the wrong silly thing, and like I'm doing the right thing, and but I don't know that. But if I can read and sort of understand a bit more, I may never like still believe in what they believe, but I'll go like, okay, well, so they're on this orientation. I can see why they pointed there. I just don't agree with it, and I'm not going to treat them like as like ignorant or like less intelligent or anything like that because of it. So I'd like to understand and treat the sort of other members of faith in a better way through that process.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to see things. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you heard a very good example of how a missionary would tell you the things. I was a missionary 25 years ago, so I forgot what was. But yeah, I would say that there's a few of us in the corner. We don't really say too much. I'm one. I post comments here and there, but yeah, I mean, do you follow Malcolm Collins or at all? The
I know of him. I won't comment on his work.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So if I'm not saying obviously he's not LDS, but you know how he's kind of more free to come up with his own belief system. So Mormonism is kind of like that. Joseph Smith was willing to be, I would say, step outside the paradigm a little bit, still within Christianity in general, but he was willing to push some of the things that a lot of traditional Christians tended to shy away from. And, so that's why there's some difference, so he kind of broke some traditional boundaries. That's why you have baptism for the dead, even though baptism for the dead is in the New Testament. You'll never hear a Christian talk about it, even though St. Paul talks about it. But, you ignored those scriptures, but Latter-day Saints didn't. So they came up with some different answers. Why does, one of the big things that was on Joseph Smith's mind was, if somebody died and they weren't baptized, why would they go to hell? And so he came up with these ways to get people to come to Jesus, even this life or the next, to make up for that perceived inequality. So he tackled real questions of, if Jesus came in a certain time and place, what happened to the people before Jesus came? Obviously, Jacob could easily point this out to any Christian, right? Are they all going to hell, right? So Joseph Smith actually tried to tackle these very obvious questions and problems with traditional Christianity, and that's where some of the beliefs differ. But obviously a great number of similarities too. So
that is interesting because I haven't heard of that. And that is like a good thing to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was the first subscriber of Jack's channel, Jack's brand new channel. I highly recommend everybody go subscribe. I put a link in the description, and there's his weird profile pic. I don't know why he has
there we go.
Profile pic. Is that your own dog, or did you just find that picture?
No, there was an Instagram account that had like find your dog, and that was the one that had the name Jack on it, and so that's my profile picture for like everything because I love him.
Okay, yeah, I mean, actually, Andrew, that looks like Andrew's dog. Andrew comes on this channel every once in a while. Jack, I am going to let you have the final words, and yeah, it was great having you. I can no longer complain to all the Mormon missionaries that none of them came on.
Yeah.
And once again, congratulations on your upcoming wedding. And yeah, last words are yours.
Well, thank you so much for like hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate all of your time and all of your comments. I'm really looking forward to like kicking off my YouTube channel and actually having more of an online presence. I'm loving it so far.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, take care,
Great
everybody.
job.
Do you want to do the honors and end the stream? It's the red button on the top right.
We're not going to do a closing prayer.
We can do a closing prayer. It's all
Nah.
you, Jack.
I'll go ahead and end the stream.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, y'all. Bye.